This is the review of the latest version of the Kukirin G3, and in this video you're going to see me do a speed test, talk about the quality, the suspension on this latest version of the G3. We'll have a brief look as well at the tyres, and most importantly, who is it for? Is it worth the money? But first of all, let's take it out of the box. This will literally only take you a matter of minutes. Take your time doing this. You only have a few screws to assemble, which is the top handlebar area. Make sure that you put the threads in correctly. Most importantly as well, make sure that you basically pump up the wheels on this scooter to around 45 psi to avoid punctures. Apart from that, it's pretty straightforward. It's only one person job, so you should have no issue doing this. Let's do our first testing. Okay, so this is the first test ride on the Kukirin G3. We are at a full charge. We're going to do basically go as fast as possible. We're going to see how much we get as well on the GPS. And let's see what we can do. Full charge, of course. It says to be around 50 km/h top speed. We'll do a hill test as well. Torque is actually not too bad. The motor is said to be 1200 watt peak. Again, we'll see what that's like in a minute. Grip from the tyres is very good. Hybrid 10-inch tyres. Temperature today is around 1 degree Celsius only. So, as you can see, the top speed we're getting, GPS is around 42 km/h, and the reading on this G3 is 48 km/h. So, of course, it's not correct. So it's out around 6 km/h. So, yeah, 42 km/h top speed confirmed. And by the way, just for reference, I am actually 84 kilograms without my camera gear, so that's 2 kilograms plus, so I'm around 86 kilograms today. The tyres are at 45 psi. Handling on the scooter is actually quite good, I must say. I'm going to go to an area where there's quite a steep hill. We'll test it and then we'll see what it can do. So it does have mechanical disc brakes. Initial torque is just, I have it on 0 start, of course. The torque on it is actually one of the better ones from Kukirin. There are a few scooters like I don't recommend, like the G2 Pro, that all people are always asking, should I buy this? Should I buy this? And of course, no, you shouldn't buy it because it was badly designed and in my opinion it's outdated. But on this is actually quite impressive. I do like it. Scooter is very quiet, simplistic design, not a lot of rattling coming from it. It does seem to also have regenerative braking. So let's get up to speed here. We'll slam on both brakes. But there is a few things that I'm not crazy about on this G3, so let's just see. Okay, so let's say we just need to slam on our brakes. We're going good speed. Let's go. Yeah, brakes actually do quite a good job. They don't feel premium brakes. They are just standard mechanical, but they do the job. Handlebars on this G3 are actually, they're nice and wide. So of course you have the stability there, so it is extremely stable. No wobbling at all coming from this G3. So quite happy with that. It does also have a few upgrades compared to the previous G3 that I'll talk about. Well, even if you go on, a narrow kind of pathway like this, you could actually have a bit of fun with this scooter. You could go crazy if you wanted. Gravel here. Yeah, gravel's quite good. Suspension design does not have coil suspension or anything like that. It just has standard bushing suspension. Any questions as well, do feel free to ask me. The deck size on this is not big, to be honest. I mean, you could maneuver your feet around a small bit, but it's not one of the biggest decks that I have. I do prefer bigger decks because, of course, if you're traveling really high distances, you can sometimes get pain in the back of your legs, so you can be able to stretch your legs quite easily. But on this, you know, it's okay. It's not crazy comfortable, but it would do the job for a high majority of people. But I'm actually quite surprised with the torque on this. It definitely does feel like around what they are saying, 1200 watt peak. Of course, this is not a racing scooter. I would recommend something like the Kukirin G2 Master that I reviewed, which is a dual motor design scooter, or the G3 Pro, which is my favourite Kukirin scooter. But don't worry, I will link that playlist at the end of this video and you will be able to see what they're all about. In the meantime, let me get to a hill. We'll do a zero start. A lot of single motor scooters struggle to actually get up this hill in front of me. So we'll see what we can do. We'll stick it onto, we'll stay on basically the highest gear. So it's this hill here that's in front of me. So zero start. If it gets up this, I'll be quite happy. Yep. Speed increasing. Yeah, actually for a hill like that, quite happy. Yeah, very happy actually. It was gathering speed quite quickly as well. Let's see what it's like if you go on grass. The ground today is wet. So, of course, when you're on grass, rough terrain, a dual motor scooter is best. Because of course you would have more torque there to climb it much more easily. But overall, quite happy with this G3 actually, yeah. Yeah, quite surprising. Finally another Kukirin scooter that I do like. So speed, 42 km/h GPS tested. Suspension on this is okay. I'll talk about that in a bit more detail. Brakes, decent enough, will do the job. Deck is a bit small, but overall quite happy. But let's break it down into a lot more detail. So here it is, the Kukirin G3. Finally have my hands on it, and as you can see, I've done a few tests that I'll talk about now in a few minutes. So let's talk about what I like about the G3 and what I dislike about it. Okay, well first off, the actual design of the G3 is really nice. I must say, looks quite different from some of the other Kukirin models, which is a good thing. This has also had a few upgrades compared to the previous version, so let's talk about that. So the displays have been upgraded. It also has the new design stem all along here, and of course it has the new folding mechanism, and of course the side of the scooter has been changed just a small bit. And the specs of the G3 is basically you have a 52 volt 18 amp hour battery, you have 10-inch tires, you have indicators, you have a horn on this, you have a twist throttle also, and the rear motor on this is 1200 watts peak. So let's talk about hill climbing. Okay, it can get up the average size hill. I think it's actually quite a good motor compared to some of the older Kukirin models like the M4 Pro that is quite poor at climbing hills. So that definitely gets a thumbs up. Tyres are very good. They are my favourite tyres on electric scooters. So from a grip standpoint, they are quite decent. Brakes on the G3 are also okay. I mean, they're not the best of quality, but they will be able to stop you. So I do also like the new folding mechanism on a lot of the G2 models and G4 models. That's quite secure. So you simply have a pin just on the side there, and then the handlebars just fold down. And then one thing that I'm not too crazy about is that they do use these straps now that basically hook onto the back of the light, which is kind of a weird design to be honest, and then you can lift it. Would I do that regularly? No, I actually wouldn't do that regularly to be honest, but I mean, it's the design, it's quite sturdy, no real questions about will it break, will it give issues over time, so nothing there again. So thumbs up with the folding mechanism design. But it's not all good news. Let's talk about the things that I don't like about the latest G3. Even though it has suspension, it is not a coil suspension, so it's basically a bushing type suspension. It is so stiff, there is literally hardly any travel on this, and with all my weight, I mean, basically it doesn't do a lot. That was quite a letdown. I thought it would have had a bit more travel, a bit more of a nicer suspension feeling. So for off-roading, it's not a good idea for this G3 unfortunately. Another thing to note is the deck is not that big. It is quite small, so you would need to keep that in mind. If you have like size 11 feet or size 12 feet, you're going to struggle to stay comfortable on this. Now I'm actually not that tall, so I'm like 5'8", and a big problem with the scooter is because it's high off the ground, it has a nice high deck, which is often a good thing to have, but the handlebars are actually quite low. So as I'm riding this scooter, I'm literally so high up and my body is completely exposed here. I don't like that. It is stable, but from a comfortability standpoint, I'd rather the handlebars to be a bit more higher up at my chest, so you feel that bit more stable, a bit more comfortable, and not as exposed. So that's one thing that I didn't expect, to be honest, from the G3, but it is what it is at the end of the day. That's the way the scooter is designed. Nothing is adjustable on the scooter, nothing is customizable on the scooter, but you can do a few things, such as if you want to have like zero start, for example, like what I have, to just, instead of kicking the scooter, you can do that. You simply hold down the set button to enable or disable zero start. This goes for as well for the G4 scooters and the G2 scooter that I reviewed a while ago. Same exact procedure. The screen on this is touchscreen. It's okay, it's not too bad, but if it's very bright, it will be a little bit difficult to see. So again, you do need to take that with just a grain of salt. It's not really much of a deal breaker, to be honest. Top speed on this is the 42 kilometers an hour, which is more than acceptable. So let's briefly talk about the range. Okay, it does have a 52 volt 18 amp hour battery, which gives you that good power. It gives you that decent torque, so a range of up to 60 kilometers. To be honest, in my experience with those types of batteries, if you're going on the higher speed, you'd probably get 30 to 35 kilometer maximum distance on a full charge if you are really going crazy with the electric scooter. Realistically, would you be traveling that much every day? Probably not. If you need something with longer range, it's probably best to get something like the Kukirin G3 Pro that I absolutely love, plus that has a removable battery. But stick with me for a second. Another thing that I do like about this is actually it does have basically twist throttle here that you can just use that way with your hand, or you can just use it as the thumb throttle, which is like it's a nice design. So if you don't like thumb throttles, you can just use it as a twist throttle instead. So it is something that they have thought of. But most importantly, yeah, you could have fun with this. Woo. You could have fun with this scooter, like I said, but I mean, who is it really for at the end of the day? Okay, let's talk about this because it is quite important, because people often buy the wrong electric scooter. The G3 is basically basically has a walk mode as well. You see there, as I'm actually pushing the scooter, the lights flash in the front here, so it's walk mode. It's actually a really nice design to see. So this is basically for somebody who needs to get from A to B. It's not an off-road scooter. You can't go crazy, even though it's kind of advertised as an off-road scooter. It's not. Get to A to B if you're going distances of around 30 to 40 kilometers a day, again depending on what speed you're going. It's not for rainy conditions because it's only IP54 rated, so you need to take that in mind. But let's talk about the value. To be honest, it's only just over €600, and with a 52 volt 18 amp hour battery with decent speed, decent grip, decent stability, I think it's actually worth every penny. I thought it would have been around €750 mark, give or take. The time of making this video, it's just over €600, and it is linked in the description. Any questions, feel free to comment below, but I would definitely recommend checking out the Kukirin playlist that I've done. I've reviewed basically 90% of their electric scooters at this point, so I kind of have my favourite, which again is the G3 Pro, followed by the G2 Master, and then followed by the G4, and then followed by the G2, and then this will probably come where in between. But I will be doing videos, comparison videos at another point. But if you have enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.